I hated Israel. I
Mhm.
hated the Jews. Period. It's just as simple as that. And anybody who denies this among Muslims, he tells a different story that they grow up not hating the Jews. I think he's not saying the truth. As to my knowledge, because I grew up listening to radio programs, watching TV, going to school, listening to my dad preach at the mosque. I listened to many sermons, and I can't even count how many times the subject of the Jews came, and all what I heard are cursings and portraying Jews negatively, that they are the cursed people. God cursed them, and they have the wrath of Allah on them.
Some people inherit a family business, others inherit a family tradition. Brother Rashid inherited a religion. Born in Morocco to the son of an Imam, he was expected to follow in his father's footsteps and dedicate his life to Islam. Instead, one question changed everything. His search for truth cost him his family, his home, and eventually his country. Today, he is one of the Arab world's most recognized voices, offering a rare perspective on Islam, Israel, and the future of the Middle East. Today, we're talking about truth, faith, Israel, Hamas, October 7th, Iran, and the questions millions are afraid to ask. Brother Rashid, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. Brother Rashid, before the world knew you as Brother Rashid, you were simply a little boy who looked up to his father. Tell me about him. What was your life like growing up as the son of an imam in Morocco?
Well, as any other Moroccan, except like the religious side, I was just a simple boy in a little town. And it happened that my father was the religious leader of that town. He was the Imam of that local mosque. So I grew up knowing no other religion except Islam, knowing that my father is very well respected. People look up into him and see him as a role model. They kiss his hand whenever they meet him in the meetings or in the local market or wherever they find him. And whenever there is a wedding or anything, they give him the first place. And I was just happy and proud that unlucky and considered myself lucky to be his son. So my growing up as a boy, just I wanted to be like my dad, like every other boy, because I see how well he was respected among the village population. And they used to call me, even people, they when they see me in the street, they don't call me by my name Rashid. They say the son with the like the son of the sheikh, the son of the imam, the son of the faqih, or the knowledgeable person. So it's an honorable position to be like that, and that's how I grew up. I go to the mosque, and I started going with my dad since I was 4 years old, something like that. Very young age, they take us to the mosque. I started doing my alphabet in the mosque, learning my alphabet, my Arabic alphabet. And, I think Islam and Judaism has some similarities when it comes to raising your children on knowing scripture, knowing God, knowing religion, knowing some basic things. So my dad, because he was the religious leader, he went to the extra mile, and he taught me to recite the Quran, how to recite it, how to memorize it. And even when we come back home, that's the whole conversation is around these things. With my grandpa, they try to test me every time how much I memorized, and everybody's pushing me towards that direction. Even my dad was hoping that one day I will be like him. He expressed that feeling several times in front of his peers. I remember that vividly when I was around 7, 8, something like that. He takes me to places, and he's proud and bragging, and he will be, Rashid, just recite this and this and show them how much do you know. And the people just are in awe, like how much this boy knows. One thing I want to mention, that we are 7 siblings. My oldest brother was born with something called cerebral palsy. So because my dad couldn't teach him anything, so he considered me as the eldest, and the eldest in a family in Morocco bears responsibility, and also they put a lot of pressure on him to be the one leading other siblings.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, At what point did things change when you became, let's say, a teenager? What was life like for you then?
Well, because in Morocco, not every place had access to school, the same education. My mom fought with my dad to get me also to a secular school. My dad resisted that idea, but at the end, he gave up under the pressure of my uncles and my mom. And the deal was I was supposed to study both, go to the secular school where I learned French, learn math, learn other things besides the Quran. So when I finished the fifth grade, my dad had a problem because middle school wasn't in our area, and the closest one was like 30 kilometers, something like that. So my dad arranged with my uncle to move to Casablanca and continue my studies there in middle school and high school. So when I went to Casablanca, I moved from being under the supervision of my dad to the supervision of my uncle. And I was about 12 years old when I moved there. And that opened a new door for me. You know, it's a culture shock, even within Morocco, to move from countryside to Casablanca. Millions of people live there. Life is different, fast paced, and entertainment systems. So moving there had a lot of free time, no mosque like in my village. My uncle had a business, so he's busy most of the time. I do my prayers in the mosque, but besides prayers, I don't spend the whole time there. It was good for me. I felt like less pressure, but in the same time, I had some extra time to spend. And I remember it was Ramadan, so we didn't have internet like now or satellite TV or other stuff. And I wanted to spend some time so I can stay late so we can eat. And, you know, they encourage us, even if we don't have to fast until we're 15, but at that age, they encourage us to start at least practicing some fasting until we reach that age. So I wanted to do it. We take it as a challenge. Teenagers also brag how many days they fasted and how many days they survived the month of Ramadan. So it's a matter of competition between teenagers. So I started doing that, and while I was trying to spend time at night, I listened to radio programs. It happened that night I listened to something about Christianity that is totally different than what I learned about Christianity from the Quran and Islam. And that's when the switch happened. That was the trigger. It's a program where I started corresponding with them back and forth for 4 years. And I got into comparing Islam and Christianity, the Quran and the Bible. And I started learning also about the Jewish Torah, about the prophets from a different angle, not just the Islamic point of view.
Hmm. Hmm. And what are some of the things that you saw as differences that kind of turned you away from Islam to Christianity?
Well, there were many things. It's hard to put them into one session, but I have been doing my program for 20 years, and that's what I was doing, just comparing and
Hmm.
explaining what I learned about Islam and Christianity. So I would give some examples. For example, even the worldview, the frame that Islam presents is God want people to believe in Islam, and Islam is the first religion ever. It came with Adam and Eve and continued through the prophets. So every prophet came, preached Tawheed, which is the oneness of God. He's just one. And every prophet, that's his message. And until the last prophet, which is Muhammad. And people disobeyed this message. And so Allah punished them, sometimes through flood, sometimes through other catastrophes, like in what happened in Egypt and other places. When you read the Bible, you find a different story. It's not God sent prophets to humanity in general preaching oneness. No, God wanted to bless humanity through and reveal himself through certain people. And those people were the Jews, actually. He chose Abraham, and through Abraham, he chose his son. And then through his son, he sent prophets just to bring those people back whenever they went to the other side. to just bring them back so they can shine his light, his blessings to others. And through them, as a Christian, or as Christianity says, through those people, he blessed them through Christ and his salvation. That's a different perspective. Another one, Islam teaches that everybody should submit to the oneness of God, otherwise, they should be fought. And that's in chapter 9. Verse 5 is against the polytheists, verse 29 is against Jews and Christians. And when you look at the Bible, no, God gave freedom to people to choose. Even Adam, even the first creation, everybody has a responsibility to choose, even to disobey God, even to worship other gods. He is not going to make people submit by force, by the sword, to follow Islam. That's a different perspective. I thought like everybody should worship one God, and if they don't, we should fight them until they do. And the Bible doesn't teach that. So I can go on and on. There are many aspects. I was shocked every time I compare a topic, I find a different, complete worldview in the Bible.
Hmm. Hmm. Specifically, what did you believe about Jews growing up, about Israel? What was your view about that subject, that religion, and that country?
I hated Israel. I hated the Jews, period. It's just as simple as that. And anybody who denies this among Muslims, he tells a different story that they grow up not hating the Jews. I think he's not saying the truth. As to my knowledge, because I grew up listening to radio programs, watching TV, going to school, listening to my dad preach at the mosque, not just my dad. I went to other mosques. I listened to others. When I moved to Casablanca, I went to many mosques because sometimes we change the place where we worship. And I listened to many sermons, and I can't even count how many times the subject of the Jews came, and all what I heard are cursings and portraying Jews negatively, that they are the cursed people. God cursed them, and they have the wrath of Allah on them. Of course, Islam was built when you study Islam from the 7th century, was built on an idea to hate the Jews and Christians because they resisted the message of Muhammad in the Arabian Peninsula. They rejected him as a prophet. They told him, "We don't find you in scriptures. You don't bear the fruits of prophets." And the Jews said, no prophet should come unless he's a Jew. So why we should accept an Arab? And we don't find you in the Torah. We don't find you anywhere. You don't belong to the prophet's line. The Christians told him, we have a savior. We don't need another one. That's it. So when they rejected him, he felt that rejection. And the first enemies in Islam are Christians and Jews. That enmity stayed for 1400 years, and it was embedded in the culture through many aspects of life, through jokes, culture, movies, school, the curriculum, media, even series. Everything is around this idea. I remember also watching the TV and watching what people say when the Intifada started and when Yasser Arafat was still alive. And whenever we see the Jews, people just say all kind of things against them. They are the pigs, they are the animals, they are the monsters, they are the bloodsuckers, they are this and this. And also when Saddam Hussein, I remember when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and then the first Gulf War against him, led by the US, and I remember he was sending Scud missiles to Tel Aviv, and the ladies in our neighborhood in Casablanca, they were doing the Moroccan zagruta is like a sign of happiness and joy. And I remember reading newspapers during those days. They are showing the Israelis peeing on their pants. They are showing the Jews are hiding and they are in fear, and people just making all kind of jokes about something like that. So to summarize, I know Jews lived in Morocco, and I know the history. Some people are trying to paint a rosy picture, but reality is harsh. The majority of Muslims in North Africa and the Middle East hated the Jews. I was one of them as a kid, and I didn't know even why. I was just raised like that because Islam teaches you to hate Jews.
Hmm. Let's go back to your own story for a second. What happened? What was the reaction of your parents when you started questioning things? I know there's a part of your story your mother begged you to say the Shahada. Maybe walk us through that part of your life.
Well, at first, I was not looking for to change my religion. I was just curious, and then it reached a point where I had to make a decision. To be honest, I was very confused. I was I was lost between so many ideas, and I was shocked that Islam doesn't really have a strong foundation to defend whatever ideas and ideology it teaches. So, yeah, going back to that story, just one of my cousins, because one day I just decided, and corresponding with my friends overseas, they referred me to some missionaries in Casablanca, and that's how I started knowing some Moroccan Christians, converts like me. And I started joining some of the meetings secretly because it's not something allowed in Morocco. And my mom came to know about this topic from one of my cousins because of our discussions. And I never thought like they will take it very seriously because I was trying to keep it as secret as something spiritual more than anything else. And then since my cousin sold me to my parents and my mom came and tried to defend me in front of other members of the family. And then when they were gathering, I entered the room and then she asked me to say the Shahada. And I couldn't because it will be a denial of what I have learned and what I have believed in. And that's when things changed completely. I was kicked out of the big family. And also, my dad didn't want to have anything to do with me for a while. And I was homeless for 2 years, living in the streets. Sometimes I have shelter with some friends and some people that I know, but other times I was just in the streets, just sleeping there, waking up there, not having any money to eat. And without the help of some missionaries, I could have ended as a homeless for whole my life. So it was a huge thing. The family just rejected me. They didn't try to kill me or anything, but they didn't want to have anything to do with me. Some parts of the extended family tried to help me sometimes, but they ended up in the same camp, just letting me go because for them it's a. I am not just threat to their kids because I might teach them the same ideas, and also, they don't want to have problems with the government because the government was interrogating and arresting anybody who converts to Islam and say it publicly. And my topic didn't stay only with the family, it started getting other places through friends and other people. So they were also trying to protect themselves.
I mean, you paid a very big price for this. Did you at any point say to yourself, maybe I'm making a mistake, maybe I should go back, this is too much, I can't take it anymore? Did you ever have those thoughts?
Well, I cried and it was painful. There's nothing more painful than being rejected by your own family, people that you trusted that they will protect you and they will do whatever it takes to keep you protected. Especially, I am a, I was in a very young age where I needed my parents, I needed my family. I was not independent financially or even emotionally.
How old were you at this point?
Well, the transition happened when I was about to turn 17. It is like the end of my 16 year and turning 17.
Mhm.
And so still very young. I'm not very mature. But one thing I was sure of that nobody can force me to believe in something that I discovered myself not worthy of belief. I was 100% sure because I reached a point where I was 100% sure that Islam is not for me. And I cannot believe or follow Muhammad. And even if I do it, it will be just something superficial in front of my family. And I'm that kind of person. I cannot be hypocrite. I cannot show them one face and hide another. So I couldn't live with that idea if I choose to do it. So I said, if a price has to be paid, then let it be.
Mhm. And we also know that in Islam, right, there's a death penalty for apostasy, right?
True.
Did that play into any part of why you wanted to keep it quiet? I'm sure many Muslims nowadays don't want to openly say that they've left Islam. Is that true?
Well, in Morocco, we don't have a clear sentence in the law that says whoever left Islam should be killed. But also, it's an Islamic country, and the king is the prince of believers. He's the guardian of the faith, and he claims he's a descendant of the prophet's line. So it's tricky because, in a way, they have to follow Islam, and they say we take our law from Sharia, but you don't find it in any text. And also, the people believe that if you leave Islam, you are an apostate, you deserve death. But you don't see people carrying it because if they do it, they will face consequences in front of the law. So it's a very complicated dynamic where you are afraid of your life. When I was living as a Christian in Morocco, I was afraid that somebody will take those texts seriously and will kill me, which the hadith says, whoever left his religion, kill him. And in the same time, the government doesn't want to look like ISIS killing people for leaving Islam, but they try to do everything else to intimidate you, to oppress you, to make you leave that thought. So what they do, or used to do, at least until I left Morocco, they used to come to the meetings and arrest everybody, for example, take you for interrogation, threaten you, make you sign some documents that you will never go back to those meetings, or use other methods. For example, arresting you for shaking the faith of a Muslim. They will say, you gave a book to a Muslim and you shook the faith of a Muslim. That's an article actually in the law that says shaking the faith of a Muslim is punishable. And also they can say you didn't fast Ramadan, and breaking the fast publicly, you confessed and you publicly said that you didn't fast Ramadan. That's a text in the law. So they can use other tricks to make your life miserable and probably arrest you. Even if, in my case, I had police tell me like we can put drugs into your. I had a store at certain time later in my life, not when I was 17, but later. That's the reason why I left Morocco 2005, because I couldn't trust the government. They can do anything. One of them, they told me we can put drugs into your store and it will be a case of drugs. And who's going to defend a drug dealer? So it will not look like a religious thing. It will look like I was doing
Mm,
drugs, and even human rights organizations would not be able to take my case. So that's what was happening in Morocco.
mhm. Now, at what point did your views on Israel, for example, change? And you often say that this conflict in Israel isn't about land. If it's not about land, what is it about?
The conflict with Israel, Arab Israeli conflict, I tried it. I tried to avoid it. Of course, my views about Jews started changing since my conversion, but it was slowly. It wasn't my priority. And of course, I took a long journey of studying even the conflict itself and seeing what happened, not what the media is trying to preach to us. I found out the land is used, but the reality is Islam. Let me explain it in details. If a Muslim land or any land claimed to be an Islamic land, no one should govern that land except Muslims. That's why when the Ottomans were there, nobody calls it occupation until today. Even in the Moroccan curriculum, nobody says الاحتلال. So it's an Ottoman caliphate. It's Islamic. It's accepted because the ruler is a Muslim. The land is Islamic. Jews can live there, but as dhimmis. Christians can live there, but as dhimmis, second-class citizens. But they cannot govern. They cannot have their own state. And that's why in the Middle East, they will never allow a Christian state, a Jewish state, or any other faith state. Lebanon, look at Lebanon, for example. It was majority Christian, not anymore. So they call them Islamic states, an Islamic land. For the Jews to have their own country, that's an insult for Muslims. How come an Islamic land is governed by the Jews, who are the enemies of Allah, and they have their own laws, and Muslims there are living under the authority of the Jews? If you understand Islam, that's very insulting for a Muslim. No ruler should rule over a Muslim land except if he's a Muslim. That's the real fight, and that's why Arabs joined forces and tried to eliminate the Jews in 1948 and 67, and they kept doing it until today in October 7 in 2023, because that's the idea and that's how they are selling it. When they say the occupation, they don't mean the settlements, for example, in the West Bank or other places. They mean that the Jews are occupying the whole land. So they want the whole land back. And when you read these things and you understand the Islamic mentality, you see it's not about the land. Egypt had Gaza for almost 20 years, and nobody said it's occupied by Egypt. Jordan had the West Bank for the same period, and nobody said it was occupied by Egypt. Only when it's under the Jews, then it's occupation. But when it's under any Islamic country, they don't talk about occupation. And look at Cyprus, for example, the part that under Turkey, Muslims, they are not calling it occupation. It's Islam, and Islam rules there. They still dream going back to Spain. They call it Al-Andalus because now it's under the Christians or the Westerners. And one day they dream, when you look at Al-Qaeda and other groups and even the Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS, they dream that one day that land will come back under the Islamic rule. And if they can't do it through military, probably through conversion or through immigration or other means. So if you understand this reality, they are not fighting over land. They have a lot of land. They are not doing anything with it. Why they will fight over a small portion that is, if you take it within the context, the Arab context, the Islamic context in the Middle East, it's insignificant. But still, all these wars, how many countries joined forces? Egypt, Syria, even Morocco, and Iraq even, and all these forces, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, all these forces together. Why? Do you think just because of the land, or because they hate Jews and they don't want them to govern a state for themselves?
Yeah. Now we see that Islamic Republic of Iran trying so hard to destroy Israel, building the Hezbollah, Hamas, and they claim that they're doing it for the Palestinians. How much do they actually care about the Palestinians, and how much are they using the Palestinians as a tool to achieve their own goals?
Nobody cares about Palestinians. They don't care about people. If they really care about people, they will care about Sudan, for example. They will care about Yemen when the bombs from Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates were killing thousands there. Nobody cared. And I can give other examples. Even going back to the land idea, Morocco has two cities Moroccans consider they are occupied by Spain, Ceuta and Melilla. Have you ever heard protests, for example, in Cairo or in Iran or in Iraq to free those lands from Spain? No. because it's not the Jews. The Jews are the first enemies, then later on others. The focus is not about Palestinians, is the hatred toward Jews. They should not occupy that piece of land. So that's why they use Palestinians as just a tool, as a cause, as label to move the crowds. I remember going to university in Morocco and seeing images and videotapes playing all day in the university campus, showing us kids being killed by Israeli soldiers and recruiting people to join those groups like Al-Adl wal-Ihsan. It's like a Muslim Brotherhood branch, but they don't claim it. And they recruit people to these ranks, even in Morocco, thousands of miles away from Israel. They are recruiting people to join their cause and using Palestinians as a label to recruit people. That's what Al Jazeera has been doing since the 90s until today. They are selling those images to recruit people, to move the crowds, to play with them psychologically and emotionally so they can hate the Jews more. And the more you hate the Jews, the more you want to do something to eliminate them. Iran played the same card from a Shia point of view, and that's why they were able to create proxies in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and even in the West Bank and in Gaza and in Syria. So that's the game that everybody's playing, actually, not just Iran. Even Arab states played the same card when they were helping Yasser Arafat. They were channeling funds to him and helping him when he changed bases. He went to Lebanon, then to Tunisia, then back to the West Bank. Who was helping him? Who was funding him? Who was trying to use him so they can channel their hatred towards Israel? It's the Arab states, other Arab states like Egypt, like Qatar, like Saudi Arabia. And we should name these things. We should face these things. This is the harsh reality.
Mhm. Now, why did Hamas call October 7th the Al-Aqsa flood? What does Al-Aqsa represent that Western audiences completely miss?
There are hadiths that say the Al-Aqsa was the first qibla, the first place where Muslims faced their face to before changing in the Medinian period and started facing Kaaba. Another hadith says that Muhammad went there in a night journey and from there went to heaven to get the prayers from Allah Himself. Based on these traditions, Islamic states try to revive some myths about Al-Aqsa and make it central to their faith. Actually, Al-Aqsa was not very important for centuries to Muslims, but because of Israel, because of the Jews, they started to revive these texts and make Al-Aqsa central to their faith. And Al-Aqsa now they talk about it as one pillar of Islam, one of the pillars of Islam. It's the second holiest site for them. But when you go to history, actually Al-Aqsa was made as a parallel to Mecca by Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan, and also it's upon the temple that was there. It just again another sign that they hate the Jews and hate everything that belongs to the Jewish nation, and the temple represents a lot in the Jewish history, so they wanted to replace it and put something for themselves, and Al-Aqsa came in handy, and that's how they put it there. So Hamas is just playing the religious card there, because if they say we did it to help Iran, the Sunnis will not like that. If they say that they are doing it for any other reason, nobody will join them. But if they say they are doing it for Al-Aqsa, then hey, Moroccans can feel, yes, go for it, and Algerians and Tunisians and Egyptians. So they try to find religious elements that they can use as a propaganda tool, so everybody will be in favor of what they have done. And look what they have achieved. Actually, they succeeded to a certain point to rally all these protests around the world, especially Muslims, to join them, because they made them believe they are doing it to free Al-Aqsa.
Now, nowadays, we speak about moderate Muslims, we speak about radical Muslims, as if there's like a, there's a difference between the two. Uh, do you think that there are many moderate Muslims who don't hate Jews, that support Israel privately, or, is this just a misconception?
I'm sure there is a percentage of Muslims who probably sympathize and support Jews, but it's a very small percentage, and not because of Islam. It's because of other things. If you are a Muslim and you want to be true for what you believe in, then you have to hate the Jews. Muslims who do not, like some Muslims in United Arab Emirates or even in Morocco and other places who normalize their ties with Israel, let me tell you, first of all, they don't represent the majority of these countries. For example, in Morocco, the government, yes, but no statistics has been done, but I'm sure you will be shocked probably how many Moroccans still hate the Jews. We don't know, but when I see social media and see videos and see protests, I am afraid that percentage will be shocking for so many people. I don't know about United Arab Emirates since it's a small country. The leadership, yes, for different reasons, they changed the course, but nobody asked the Emiratis themselves how many of them are supportive of that direction and how many of them are rejecting it. Still, if you take Morocco and United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, well, go to Egypt. I'm sure if you, as a Jew, if you walk in the streets of Cairo, you'll be killed. The embassy there is under heavy protection. Otherwise, it will be destroyed. Why? Because the Arab media, not just Al Jazeera, even the Egyptian media, still playing the same card. Look how many productions they have done in Ramadan, series and drama and many things about the Jews. It's just that feeling is so strong among Egyptians. Look at Jordan, for example. If you go to Jordan, most of Jordanians, they hate the Jews. So the term moderate Muslim, it just simply means that some Muslims are ignoring parts of their religion, either because they don't know about it or because it's not convenient for them and their humanity is stronger than their belief system. But if they want to really apply their belief system, they have to hate you.
Mhm. Now, you often say that civilizations are built on stories. Can you explain what that means? Practical.
Well, I believe that all humans, they have stories. I have a story for myself. My family has a story for the whole family. You too have stories, those narratives in the Bible. I believe they are stories, meta narratives that built the nation of Israel. Those stories define who Israel is and who are the Jews, because you look into them and you get your morals, you get your frame, you get your courage, your inspiration, your principles. Also, it gives you strength to continue and fight for your survival. So when you read the Torah, for example, and you read the story of Moses, that's a narrative that keeps your nation together and shows you how you survived for thousands of years against all enemies, against all things that happened through history. I take those stories as inspirational and also as a built up for the whole society. New laws are inspired from those stories. We embed, as human beings, we embed our morals, our laws, our culture into stories. And I believe each nation has stories. Islam has some stories, the Jews has stories, Christians has stories. And when I look at those stories, I can decompose them and see the elements. The Islamic stories have elements of destruction to civilization. Judeo-Christian stories are made differently. When you read about Moses, it's not a fight with Pharaoh on believing in God or not. They are not trying to impose their belief system on Pharaoh. Either you believe it happened or not, that's not important for me now. I'm just saying the morals and the principles. So when you read the story of Moses with Pharaoh, a people that was enslaved, and it's a cry for freedom. Let my people go. Free my people. It's a story of freedom, fighting for your own freedom, leaving the totalitarian regime. And even in harsh circumstances, even in a land that is a desert and has nothing, you are going to live your dream and build a nation from scratch under God. And I believe those stories built Israel and made them strong through history.
Mhm. Do you believe that the West still believes in its own values, in its own story, or do you think that's kind of fading away and being taken over by um, the Muslim story, for example?
Well, the West, unfortunately, is losing those principles and those stories. They are mocking their own principles, their own religions, their own stories. And Christ is mocked. The Bible is mocked. Jewish stories are mocked. Everything with so many academians and students and teachers and podcasters. So the trend is a hatred to the West and Judeo-Christian principles and whatever the West represented. There is also the notion that there is no truth and truth is relative. So everybody makes his own truth. And I think that's destructive because at the end of the day, each one can make claim anything and say it's the truth. So we don't believe in meta narratives. And I think you will agree with me that it's not holy and people are looking for other things, and Islam is replacing that vacuum because it gives them another story that for example, Christianity was a white religion, and look what they have done to the blacks, and they didn't tell them that Islam also enslaved so many people and sold people, and the enslaved people since day one, actually, when they raided their other tribes since the 7th century until the collapse of the caliphate. And slavery, it was not abolished because of Islam, it was abolished because of the West pressured the Muslim world to abandon slavery, not the other way around. So they don't tell them these things, and there is an unholy alliance between certain ideologies. They're not compatible with each other, but because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so they put hands together to fight against anything that represents the West and Israel.
Why do you think it is that Western universities, these intellectuals, they struggle to understand radical Islam? You have people marching in support of Hamas, in support of terrorists. What is it that they cannot understand about this?
I'm not sure if it's a lack of understanding or something else. I believe it's a deliberate path they are taking. It's not because they lack understanding. So many people are smart in Harvard and Cambridge and other places, Yale and other places. So I don't doubt the where are they going. I think, when you take into consideration how many funds came from Qatar and other places, and they try to recruit those people. When you see it on media as well, with Tucker Carlson and other other people, I don't think they are dumb. I think they are smart, but they choose, I think, money over principles. They choose a path that hates the West and sides with other ideologies. I think it's deliberately chosen by them. Of course, there are some useful idiots. They are not aware and they just join the tide. But I think those who are leading, they are smart enough to realize that Islam is a threat to Western civilization, is a threat to our democracies, is a threat to our freedoms, but still they don't care because they hate the West so much that they are willing to put their hands in the hand of the devil, even if it takes that, and just to destroy what they hate. They don't care.
So, how much of a part does Qatar play in all of this? Because, of course, they have Al Jazeera, but like you said, they're paying off media personalities, universities. They're spending a lot of money on this. How much of this is influence is because of Qatar? So if they were not pumping this money in there, would this be different?
Well, first of all, probably you will dismiss the effect of Al Jazeera. I grew up in Morocco listening to Al Jazeera since it started. And I have seen around me in Morocco how many people were brainwashed by Al Jazeera. And not only that, even when I started my program, I have seen how many people got influenced by Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is not like a small thing in the whole fight with Israel specifically, and also propagating the Muslim Brotherhood and Al Qaeda and Taliban and other players. I think Al Jazeera is one of the most destructive tools that the Islamic world was able to produce. Mark my words, people will realize one day, if we have the tools to evaluate how much indoctrination happened in every Muslim household in the Middle East because of Al Jazeera, they will see the effect is much more beyond what they thought. I think it's much more powerful than the Muslim Brotherhood, much more powerful than Hamas and Hezbollah. And probably will dismiss these words, but I believe it because I lived it and I have seen it firsthand. So one of the things that I always ask people to do, the media should be, somehow we should make pressure on Qatar, on Egypt to restrict media, reform their media arms. They are destroying the Middle East. They are destroying the West. They are indoctrinating people who live in the US and live in Europe, and they are teaching them how to hate the West and how to hate the Jews and how to hate the Western civilization. And if we don't do that, it's just going to continue. That's one thing. Second is funding. Of course, when they fund all these Middle Eastern studies in universities, they are not doing it for the sake of these universities. They are doing it because they know the impact of education on generations. They have done it somewhere else and it produced some results. Universities in Morocco, they were dominated by Muslim Brotherhood. Universities in Egypt, they were dominated by Muslim Brotherhood. Take every Muslim nation. That's how they were able to produce jihadists. That's how they were able to recruit them. That's how they were able to produce more groups and also influential people in politics. So if they start funding those universities, they can change the narrative. They can change the story. They can influence teachers. They can influence students. Look at the protests after October 7th. Weren't you shocked that all these students are rallying for Hamas? And I wasn't shocked because I experienced it in Moroccan universities in the 90s. I have seen it firsthand. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, deja vu. It's something replicated in the West because the West was sleeping, was not aware that this money has a purpose. Unless they stop that funding, it will not stop.
I want to ask you one last question about your life now. You have a show. I believe you're in media now.
Yeah.
I guess you speak to the Arab world. What is the purpose of your show? What are you doing, and what kind of an effect is it having in the Arab world?
Well, I'm trying to face certain narratives we have in the Middle East and the Muslim world and share my experience and help people get out of it. Because I believe that the fight with these ideologies, we have to fight it also on an intellectual level, help people to use some critical thinking and how to face certain narratives. One of them actually is the taboo that we had, Israeli Palestinian or Israeli Arab conflict, as they name it. Nobody dares, even within some moderate countries like Morocco, nobody dares to do what I'm doing. I just take a topic and tell people you have been lied to all these years. This is the reality. This is another view. Look into it. check the sources, I document everything, I present my arguments, I prepare every show as I'm preparing a paper for college, and I present it to the viewers. So many people are following my show. Thousands of people changed their worldview. Some of them became Christians, some of them became atheists, some of them became non religious, but many of them got out of the philosophy of hatred towards Christians and Jews, or towards the West and Israel. And I try to teach people love, respect, and also to use critical thinking, to not be afraid to tackle the most difficult narratives in the Islamic world.
Brother Rashid, this has been an eye-opening, incredible conversation. I truly appreciate, your time. How can people find you, follow you, learn more from you? Um, floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I'm very active on X, so they can find me under Brother Rashid on X. Also, I write from time to time on Substack, and also I have a YouTube channel. If they put Brother Rashid on YouTube, it will pop up, and I will appreciate any feedback, any support, any help sharing my content and helping others to know the truth, or at least open their eyes to another perspective. So, like that, we can change the world around us.
Thank you again. Wishing you the best of success in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate you.